Right about now, you are listening to the Legacy and Leadership Podcast, a show where we discuss living as a leader worth following, leading others to do the same, and in doing so, leaving a legacy for future generations. My name is Jimmie Gonzalez Jr., a learning and development professional and leadership coach, sitting down with my co-host Anthony Devon Watts Jr., an expert contact center leader that has effectively led and developed dynamic teams with high motivation. Together, we have over 30 years experience in the corporate game. Join us as we discuss our growth as leaders, share the lessons we've learned, and interview others to see how their leadership style was shaped as they were mentored by adversity. Well, hello, Legacy Leaders. This is your co-host, Jimmie Gonzalez Jr., along with my co-host and close friend, Anthony Devon Watts Jr. We are here with our second session of the Mentored by Adversity series, which we are very excited about. And today we have along with us Judge Laurent. So welcome. How are you?
Hello. Hello. Hi. Thanks for having me here today.
We are very, very excited to have you with us. So again,
Absolutely.
Thank you for the opportunity. This is something that ever since we reached out to you and you said yes, that we've been looking forward to. And again, just me very excited as a fellow Evans alum. It's cool to be able to get back with you and hear a little bit more about your story. And I'm just so proud of you and the things that you've been able to accomplish. And I'm sure that our listeners are going to get a lot from it. So again, excited about the opportunity. For our listeners out there, again, we thank you very much for all the support that you've been giving us up until this point. Please, continue to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure that you're subscribing to whatever podcast platform you're listening on as well. We are getting very close to 500. We're already over 500 downloads with the podcast and getting very close to 500 viewers on YouTube. So again, very excited about that, but that obviously cannot happen without you guys continuing to plug in every week and listen and share with your friends and family and other legacy leaders. So again, we thank you for that. But I've had a great day so far. How are the two of you doing today?
Devin, you go first.
I would say today's been a typical day not at the office.
Okay.
Right. Working remotely. So, a lot of meetings, conference calls. I felt like today I was mostly playing like a conference call bingo. I was like, all right, like, hey, I can't see you. All right, hold on, turn on your camera. Can you hear me now? Like, if I had a nickel for every time that's occurred. But aside from that, man, got to spend a little bit of the time with Man before we got together. Fortunately, during the day, I don't get to break away too much from kind of the demands of work, even though I'm working here at home, to spend too much time with them, but to like at least be a part of bath time for whatever it's worth. It's always fun. But he definitely made me pay for it, like I said, because he was not happy when I was trying to take him out of the tub. And so literally this is outfit number 2 or 3 for the day, because the last one that I was like, okay, I'm gonna get dressed for our podcast, and then I'll take care of him and put him in the bed. Oh man, he soaked me. I felt like I was at SeaWorld, like watching the orcas jump. So, but anyway, he's good. He's laid down, man. So I'm in good spirits, and I'm really excited, man. I'm excited to learn a little bit more about Judge Laurent, and ever since you gave me the heads up that you agreed to be a guest on the podcast, did a little bit of research and. Even got an opportunity to, check out your My American Dream video, which was super inspirational. And so hopefully we get to dive into that just a little bit and just kind of talk about what your journey means for your family and how they sacrifice to get you to where you're at. And also, I'm not going to let our viewers sleep, but the judge also has some really good dance moves too. She doesn't have 2 left feet at all.
So funny. So funny.
That was great. We'll definitely leave the link to that video as well in our show notes. That way our viewers can check it out. So it'll be good.
Absolutely.
So funny. Well, I'll tell you, today was a roller coaster of emotions for me because the courthouse right now, because of the pandemic, is basically in phase 1. So they're only having limited court appearances, and I'm in county civil, so all of my appearances are virtual. So I'm doing them by teams. which is great because it gives me the flexibility. Like for now that we just started the children back to school this week on Launch Ed, to be able to conduct my hearings from home. We're going to I'm blessed enough that we're going to have someone helping us going forward, because it's just not practical for me to be able to have what happened today and what happened yesterday on an ongoing. It's not sustainable. I cannot do that. But our nanny is going to start next week because she had other commitments before we hired her. And I said, okay, my husband and I, we can handle it this week. Wrong. So I had some hearings throughout the day. And in the midst of that, my husband had a horrible day yesterday. He was so frustrated trying to get everything to work. It wouldn't connect, getting kicked out. Finally, he thought he figured it out. And he was so happy. He was like, Gisela, you're going to have a great day tomorrow. I got all the kinks out. So I'm like, okay, perfect. I could not. It was just one kink after another, getting kicked out, things not working, permissions, and then everybody was fine. I'm like, great, I'm going to run down and get my hearing. I'm in a hearing. I'm hearing them yelling, I'm out, I'm getting kicked out. I'm like, I'm muting myself. I'm trying to have core. I'm hearing them screaming upstairs. I was like, this is not working. That is not working. I was like, this is horrible. I wanted to cry, but I said, just breathe. I said, okay, I was able to handle my hearings. We did what we could do as far as Launch Ed, and tomorrow's another day. And that's how life is sometimes. Sometimes you just got to roll with the punches, take a breath, and start all over tomorrow. And it's going to be better. Tomorrow's my husband's turn.
Agreed. Tomorrow's another day. I like that.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the technical difficulties. So my youngest, she started school. A lot of kids started school this week, and so we have a computer that she's been using probably for a couple of years now, but we realize it's going to be time for us to upgrade. So just trying to help her out, and luckily her brother was able to allow her to borrow his laptop so she can get into her classes and do what she needs to do. Teacher's trying to talk and ask questions, and like the sound was just muffled, and she's sending the messages, I can't, my mic isn't working. So I'm like, poor baby.
It's hard.
Yeah,
it is.
And then
she seemed to do well.
I have a 7-year-old, she's in 2nd grade. It's almost like you have to be next to them for them to be able to walk through the steps and like transition from one class to the next. For example, they were going to go to their electives, or what do they call them at that age, their specials. So you have to be there. I mean, that basically we're blessed that, we can hire somebody who's going to come in and be here all day. Some people don't have that blessing, that they can't do that. And so, I don't know. They're going to have to figure something out, but it's tough.
It's not easy. Again, my oldest, he's in 2nd grade as well, 7. And you're absolutely right. Just being able to be like tech support, and then also like the teacher to train in another way in case they're not comprehending it and stuff like that. It is definitely taxing. So you're right. Hopefully they do figure out something else. But in the meantime, we're going to try and balance it all and support them the best way that we can, because it's not easy for anybody.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, we are excited. This is episode 8 for us, and session 2 of our Mentored by Adversity series. And within this series, again, this is really one of the highlights for us. While I think we do love talking to each other, it is way more cooler for us and exciting to be able to bring on individuals like yourself, have a conversation and just learn from you. We're definitely learners, and we want to be able to speak with other leaders in our community and learn, what you've been through and kind of how you've grown through any adversity that you've gone through. But we just want to, to start off, if you can tell us and your listeners a little bit about yourself personally and professionally.
Okay. Well, I grew up here in Orange County. Basically, my parents are from the Dominican Republic, and they immigrated to the United States. They landed in New York City. I think that's where most Dominicans come when they first come here. And I always complain, which I shouldn't, I should just be blessed, but I always complain that all my family was born in New York except for me, because my dad took on a business opportunity. Someone said, you want to make money, you should open up a body shop or go work at a body shop. And he had never, his family were farmers, and that's what he did when he was in Dominican Republic. He would sell plantains and vegetables on the street for money. But they said, go to Cleveland, Ohio, and someone will take you, and you could live in the body shop, and you can learn the trade of how to work in an auto body shop. And so he said, okay, I'm going to do it. And then him and my mom went to Cleveland, Ohio, and I was born there. Like, who lives in Cleveland? I have no clue, you know. And all my family can say that they're New Yorkers except for me. I have to say I'm from Cleveland. I don't know anything about Cleveland. And luckily, my mom hated it. And so by the time I was 2-3 years old, I was here in Orlando, Florida. So this is where I call my home. Don't ask me anything about Cleveland. I don't know anything about Cleveland. In fact, the other day I was at a conference and they told me that it's called The Mistake on the Lake. And I'm like, now I can say it's my mistake too. But okay. Now, I'm not going to hate on Cleveland because people might like Cleveland. But I haven't met anybody who said they love Cleveland yet. So I think I'm safe.
Neither have I. So I think you're safe.
Absolutely.
Shout out Richard Smith, by the way.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay.
Probably the only person, yes, who's down with Cleveland, Ohio.
So I moved here and I loved it. You know, and I have so many fond memories growing up in Orlando. You know, when I first lived here in the 80s, it was not diverse as it is right now. Like right now, we can say that Orlando is almost 40% Hispanic safely. You know, it's like high 30s. And when I moved here, it was not. There was not that many. And if you were Spanish, you were Mexican. That was it, you know. So, and I remember my family didn't speak English, and so I didn't speak English, even though I was born in the United States. And I always remember, you know, when I started kindergarten, my teachers you know, they talk like, "Oh, you're so cute." My mom dressed me up. I always say like to the Mexican prom because I had, you know, first day of school, I had this huge red ruffle dress with the ruffle socks and the shiny white patent shoes for kindergarten. Long hair with big bows in my hair. So of course they thought that I was from some Latin country, and but I knew I was learning English because I watched cartoons, and so I was learning enough. So I remember clearly like her coming up to me and saying, "You're so cute. Where are you from?" And I'm like, "Cleveland." And so she was she was so embarrassed. She was so. But then she loved me. I always win everybody over, and I went to Orange County Public Schools. You know, K through 12, and I thoroughly loved it. And I went to Valencia for I went to Evans for high school. I went to Valencia for my first 2 years, and I wanted to go to UF so bad. My dad was like, "You're not going away. You're not married, so you're not going away." And I was so disappointed. I don't know Jimmie, because Jimmie and I went to high school together, if he remembers. But I just was thinking, I'm going to go to UF. I'm going to go to this school. I'm so excited. And I got accepted to UF. My dad didn't let me go. He told me I had to go to Valencia. And I'm like, "You're going to make me go to Kirkman High School? That's what you're going to do?" But sure enough, my dad knows best. My dad was not going to ever let me make my own choice at that age. I was 17, 18 years old. But it was great for me because the reality was I got to learn at Valencia in a smaller environment. You know, the college experience, you know, the harder class. It was much harder than, you know, your high school lectures. And then I was ready. When I went to UF for my you know, the junior and senior year, I was ready. And I loved being in college. Loved it. And I did law school there. And after law school, it was so funny because I've had so many blessings in my life. And we'll talk about that later. But it was just like one blessing after another that I ended up at the public defender's office. And then after that, after the public defender's office, I ended up going to work for a law firm, and that was like a mentorship opportunity. And then from there, I knew I wanted to be a judge. So to not take away time from that employer, because it takes a lot of time to become a judge, I put up my own law firm, and I did that for a few years. And when the opportunity came, I ran for judge, and that was an amazing experience too, because when you're doing an election, you're all over the community, meeting people, boots on the ground. And now I just can't believe it. I've been a judge for 4 years. So time has flown by. And I have a husband and 4 daughters. Awesome. I always wanted a son. So I think I tried 4 times for a boy, but it didn't happen. I gave up.
So with a husband and 4 daughters, how do you balance, you know, the life between work and family, your personal and professional?
I'll tell you, like, you know, I don't think one day I'm going to start making up my original material, but I always say, you know, why reinvent the wheel? A lot of the things that I think and believe are not things that Gisela made up. It's things that have been told to me throughout my life. And I remember at a young age, I think this might have been when I was in college at UF, that I was told in the business school, you know, you have to treat your life like a business. That's what successful people do. And so I believe, and I've always believed, that you have to have your brand, your personal brand, and you have to have a mission. And, my family and my judicial philosophy is part of my brand, who I am. And they're part of my mission. That's why I live. That's why I do what I do. Being a judge and serving the community is part of me. It's a part of my soul. It's who I am, and my family. That's who I am. And so it's so easy to have the balance when that's your brand. That's who you are as a person, and that's your mission. So when I wake up in the morning, I'm a morning person, so I'm always very happy. The first thing I want to do is see my family, love on them, kiss them, hug them. I'm like all over them. I want to fill them full of love before I even leave the house. If something, God forbid, ever happened to me, they're gonna know that they're loved because they feel it before they too much before I leave this house. They're like, get off me. And then from the moment I step out of this house, I'm thinking about my job and the service and what can I do better. I want to get so many things accomplished throughout the day, but I'm also checking on my family throughout the day. I think, I carry myself in a way that it's all about service and how can I help and uplift people and how can I make my family better? Because at the end of the day, I come from a family who didn't have much, and I'm always trying to build my legacy for them. I want, and Jimmie probably can relate to this, and you too, that I feel that I'm one step away from being able to just go back to being a farmer because that's where my father came from, I'm trying to move forward, and that takes me every day to do that. If I get lazy today, I could be a farmer tomorrow. And that's not a bad thing, but I'm just trying to move forward and move my whole family with me. So that's part of my brand, that's part of my mission. And I do it every day and everything that I do, even when I'm pumping gas or I'm cleaning the car or, picking up the mail. It's everything that I do. That's how I carry myself.
Yeah, actually, I like that quite a bit. You saying that, one of the lessons you picked up along the way is treating your family, right? Treating your family, your life like a business, and you have to have a brand, you have to have a mission, you have to have a calling, and then making sure that brand and that mission permeates every single thing that you do, every part of your life. And it's definitely apparent just from what you've been able to share so far. The thing that I'm really intrigued about, and I know that we'll get to learn a little bit more about this as we just continue to chop it up here, but there's just so many inspirational examples just in your story, from the immigrant story, your father's experiences, and stepping out on faith, again leaving farming behind, coming to New York, and then saying, okay, I'm gonna learn how to work on cars, right? So we'll move to the mistake on the lake, and we'll figure it out, but all for the purpose of helping to move the family forward and putting his family in a better position. And then to immediately reap the fruit of that investment, in your life, the very next generation. And again, what's clear is that no aspect of your journey has, been a kind of a golden path or golden laden path. You've definitely had to pull and just be resilient and fight for everything that you've been able to attain. And it's that fighter mentality that you continue to carry with you when you have that mindset that says, look, if I get lazy today, I could go back to farming tomorrow. That's how quickly it could go away. And that just really resonates with me. I see that same type of fighter spirit, to be honest with you, in my father and kind of his experiences, and seeing how he's instilled that in me. It's really, really compelling. I can't wait to learn a little bit more.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I love that, as well. Because you just, it's not allowing yourself to kind of get content, right? I mean, there's definitely want to be content with where you're at and the blessings that you've been given, but always knowing that with the blessings that I've been given, like there's additional levels that I can continue to get to and work towards, because it is so easy to slide back, and you always want to be looking forward and never behind you. So definitely appreciate that. So you talked about, within your family and within a community, and, that desire to serve, and that's being part of your mission and part of your brand. As you look to be a servant, what was a moment in your life that you knew, or that you felt that leadership and this type of role that you have in the community was your calling? So,
you're going to hear me say this all the time, and it might be sound like a broken record, but again, it's my parents, because so we were in Cleveland. I told you we came here when I was 2 or 3 years old. It's like more like 3, probably in the summer. I turned 3 in September, so that's why I say that. And my dad this place is probably still there. A Caro Van was a body shop that he came to work for. That's on Silver Star. And the intention was for him to work there enough to be able to get the money to open up his own body shop. And he owned the body shop for 35 years, which was East West Auto Body Shop, which is Old Winter Garden and Old Winter Garden and John Young Parkway. So we had that shop for 35 years. In that time, remember I told you there wasn't that many Hispanic people, but it was starting to grow and starting to come more and more. And my dad, he wasn't a community leader. You know, he wasn't the mayor. You might have thought he was, but he was a source because he had that shop. And then he had his own softball team, which is a big thing, okay? So for older men. And that softball team played over in Colonial at the middle school by Englewood Middle School, whatever the middle school was at. Englewood was the elementary school. But anyways, people would come to him as a source. If they had questions about, you know, what travel agency to use, they would ask my dad. If they had questions about a lawyer, they would ask my dad. If they had questions about how to get from point A to point B, they had to ask my dad. People would come here to Orlando and they had all kinds of questions of where they should live, where they shouldn't live. They would ask my dad. And so in his own way, he was a leader, and he, you know, was a hilarious comedian. So everybody wanted to be around my dad all the time. You know, as people would come in, I would see my dad just like navigate people, help them. You know, he would take the shirt off his back and give it to you, even if he didn't even know you. And that just instilled in me a thing, you know, where I just want to help people. And then my mom, she was the same way, in a different way. She was more like, you know, always into the church and wanting to help people through the church. You know, she was always praying. She didn't even know you. Like my mom, more people know my mom than know me. I promise you that, okay? You know, she goes to the gym all the time, and everybody at the gym in Ocoee knows my mom. You know, I go anywhere, your oldest daughter? Yeah, they all know her. She'll see you. If you tell her that your back is hurting you, she'll tell you, take your shirt off. Let me look. Blah, 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 blah. She'll start inspecting you. You know, so she was always trying to help people. Like, she's always collecting clothes and giving clothes away. And so in any way that she could give food away, clothes away, whatever she can give, help people. If they got sick, she would go to the church, to the hospital, and pray for them. So she was a servant in that way. So I never saw my mom or my dad let somebody go without in their way. Because remember, my parents didn't graduate from high school. They didn't get the chance to graduate from high school. They came here and they had to start working right away. So in their way, they were leaders. You know, in their way, people looked for them. And so in my way, I knew I was going to give back. I was going to pay forward something. And, you know, like I said, I can't rave enough about the school system here. And I felt that every teacher that I ever had gave me something. And I was going to make sure that that seed that they gave me was going to be planted and then paid forward some way, somehow, in the way that I could give. Because since I became a judge, I can give in a different way than what my parents can give.
Right.
And so I think that it never crossed my mind to not be in leadership. I guess I should say that way.
Got you.
Yeah, especially, you know, when you have two great examples of, you know, kind of that spiritual foundation. It sounds like a spiritual warrior in your mom, and then, you know, your father with his work ethic. And I love the word that you use, navigate, and how he navigated conversations and relationships within the community. And in doing so, I'm sure with both of them, as they're giving, they're building trust, you know, and people would continue to come, you know, to your parents and to your dad as that source for, hey, if I need something, if I have a question, I know this gentleman right here would be able to steer me in the right direction, and I can trust, you know, the advice and the information coming from him. So,
yeah. And then another thing, you know, when you create a leader, when you work with people and you're trying to build leadership, you delegate and you trust them. And my parents, you know, my dad was working 7 days a week, basically in the beginning, to bring his business up. And then once he had the free time, he started the softball thing. That was the Sunday. So now he's out every day. And my mom, she always was a hustler. So she always had like 3 or 4 jobs. Like she had a dry cleaners. And then she also did side business, making tablecloths for the hotels for events. She would also clean houses. She would do anything that she could do. And then she was always at church. So basically, she even said down to everybody, she was always embarrassed. Like, by the time I was 3 years old, I was raising my other sister. So I was like making bottle, I was changing diapers. Like, she's like, I don't even know how I made Gisela change a diaper. She's only 3 years old, but I was changing diapers. So it's like, you know, I think I was always in leadership because I was delegated duties from a young age. You know, from 3 years old, I'm making milk and changing diapers for another baby, but I'm a baby too. So.
Yeah, a couple of things really just stood out to me as I'm kind of just listening to you talk about the example your father set for you, the example that your mother set for you is first is that, you know, leadership is not about credentials, right? Because you touched on the point like, hey, they didn't get the opportunity to, you know, complete high school or get their high school education. They came to the States and then they had to get right to work, right? And even in spite of that, right, that wasn't necessary. That wasn't a prerequisite for them to be a leader in their community, to be that person that is not just, you know, navigating or influencing, but just connecting the fiber of the community together, right? And that servant spirit in both of them, right, just like permeated everything in their life, right? In terms of, you know, who they, you know, taking time to, you know, love on people and pray for people that I don't know you, and oh, you say your back hurts, you got my full attention, to you know, meeting brand new people who are coming to the area for the first time, and here, let me help you navigate the Central Florida area and where you should go and what you should prioritize and who's somebody you can trust. And so I think the thing that's really inspiring to see then is how you took that example, right, of your credentials are not necessary for you to be a leader in your community, and then you combined it with the credentials to serve in a different capacity, which is really, really just awesome to see. Awesome.
Thank you.
And I don't want to give too much away because I do want our listeners to see the video itself. But one thing that I will say that touched me when I was watching that is, and I can see now listening to your story about your parents, you know, you were like, I don't want to just be a lawyer. I want to be a judge. And the ambition. But when you have parents that, like you said, are hustlers and ambitious and business owners and doing their thing, it's almost impossible, you know, to grow up that and see that every single day and not want to continue to take your aspirations to that next level and really, you know, make the most of the opportunity. So Devon mentioned the word inspiring, definitely a very inspiring story, and really cool to hear how your parents had such an impact, you know, on your life, even at an early age, delegating responsibilities.
You know, and I've been trying to, is one thing, this is like a funny time. I've been looking for this book forever and I cannot find it. One day I'm going to find it. But I had this book since I was young, but you know, you learn if you like something, hide it from your children, because they, you know, they go through that phase where they color and they rip, and my kids destroyed a book that I had. But I had at a young age, I had this book, and it was about this ant, and it was in Spanish. The ant broke her leg and she was going to sue. And then she was like saying, and she went to the judge, and she was like, I'm gonna sue. You know, she was gonna sue the snow, she was gonna sue the sun, and everybody would come in front of the judge like, no, don't sue me, because it's not my fault. Like this, she wants to sue the snow because she slipped and fell, and she's like, well, don't sue me, sue the sun, because the sun melted me. You know, it's not my fault. So, and then she's like, oh, I'm gonna sue the fence. I'm gonna sue this. I'm gonna sue that. So they all went before the judge. Instead, that's my dad had told me, like, you know, you need to be a professional. Like, you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer. And I was like, well, first of all, let's just stop right there, because I faint when I see blood and I don't like shots. So just take the doctor out of the picture.
Out of the window.
No, that's not happening. And lawyer, I was like, lawyer. I'm like, but I was remembering this little book that I had. And remember, this is a conversation I might have had when I was 4 or 5 years old with my dad. And I was like, I don't want to be the lawyer. I want to be the judge. Like, I want to be the one who everybody brings their problems to, and they solve the problem, because the judge was listening and was solving. And that's what my dad would do. My dad would listen and solve, you know. And so that, I think it was more like that servant mentality. Like, I wanted to be, you know, and I don't think that a judge is better than a lawyer. You know, they all have different roles. But definitely I felt that the judge was the one that listened and helped and was a problem solver. And I even think to this day, like, a lawyer has to pick a side. You know, you're working for one side and you can only help one side, but a judge is neutral. And so in that point, you know, you get to really help and serve. And so when I was a kid, I didn't see that. All I said is, like, I want to be the one who listens and helps. I didn't want to be I wanted to be that. And my dad was like, oh yeah, that's what's going to happen. He was in love with the idea.
He's like, yes, absolutely, I agree. Whatever we got to do. What I like about that though is because I think back to some of the other episodes we've had, and we've talked about just early memories we have as kids that kind of helped molded us into leadership and where we're at currently as adults. And I think there's just the power of how much wisdom is in the innocence of a child. You know what I mean? For you to just be able to say, I read this book about an ant and she's trying to shoot everybody, right? And I know that judge's job is they're there to hear everybody's problem and solve the problem, right? And like that's all you took away from it, and now here you are years later, and you're living that. You're living that. You're hearing problems. You're solving problems. You're executing on that servant example that again you saw from your father, right?
Yeah.
I just love how that all ties back together. That's awesome. Yeah. I got to find that book. I'm gonna make sure that.
I've been looking for it. It's in Spanish, so you have to learn how to read Spanish, okay?
We'll get Mom on it. Mom is his mother's Puerto Rican, so
good.
We'll get him. Teach him up. He needs to be bilingual anyway. We're in South Florida.
I hear you.
If I find the book, I'll get you a copy. But I've been looking for it. It's hard.
I think one additional lesson I took from that as well, and we've spoken a little bit about this, but just for our legacy leaders, while you look to be a problem solver, the thing that you said first though is listening. And sometimes we tend to want to solve problems and fix things, but it's just so important to listen to people, to listen to what they're going through, listen to not just the words, but the emotions behind the words to really get a good understanding of the full context of the situation, and then start to provide some guidance, and possibly, if you think you have the answers, start to provide some ideas, that can help them solve those problems and provide solutions. So,
yeah. Unbiased.
Unbiased.
Yeah,
oh, yes.
Unbiased. Yeah, I like that. Cool. So I know we talked a little bit, obviously, about the impact that your parents have had and the example that they set for you that really helped kind of set you on the trajectory that you've been on. But you also mentioned the role that the school system played, right? And I know you have a huge affinity for Orange County public school systems. You're still plugged in. You still go back to E High and contribute. And I'm just curious, were there any people that were part of your education journey that really left a positive impression on you, and what were some of the things that they taught you along the way?
Oh yeah, so I love so many. So I feel bad singling anybody out, but I'll tell you that I always remember my third grade teacher, Mr. Hawkins. I don't know if it was because my first male teacher, I don't know, but Mr. Hawkins, he was funny. He made learning enjoyable, and he would always make sure that we pushed even in third grade, so he would always push ourselves, and that's one of the things that you gave me the questions, so I had it written down, but when we talked earlier about brand, one of the things, he would always get on us. He wouldn't give us any credit if we didn't put our name on our paper, right? And then I'm like, I get mad. I'm like, Mr. Hawkins, that's mine. That's my handwriting. It's mine. No, he wouldn't let us go back. And he's like, that's your paper. Why aren't you proud of it? Why wouldn't you put your name on it? Well, then you're not going to get graded for it. And that was it. You couldn't change his mind after that. And so everything you do has your name on it, right? And that's so important. And so I always remember that, it's going to have my name on it. I'm going to make sure it has my name on it. First of all, I want to get credit for it. It's going to have my name on it. And then once it has a name on it, it has to have my brand. It has to have my mission. It has to reflect me. And that's something that I've carried since third grade. Okay, so because he put that in my head. And then I always remember I didn't like math. And it wasn't until I had Mr. Akins. I was in middle school, and it was funny that if you stay in the same community, this is the beautiful thing, that then my daughters had him too, and he didn't forget me. So when I would be driving my daughter and dropping them off, I'm like, you let me know if they act up, okay? He's like,
I got you.
But, he was the first one that gave me detention for coming to class late. And it's because, when you get to middle school, you want to hang out in the hallways and, you want to be cool and stuff. And so I got detention. I didn't know how I was going to tell my parents this because I was responsible for my sister. And now I'm going to have to stay after school, and I'm not going to be able to take her home. I was sweating bullets. I was like, I don't know. I'm going to get beat up by my parents. I had detention. I was going to try to tell my sister to stay after school with me so we can go home together. We would have to walk home. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to be able to do it. But, you know, he taught me responsibility. Like, you know, if your sister's counting on you and you got to take her home, then why would you be lollygagging in the hallways and then risk getting detention if someone's counting on you, you know? And so I said, okay, after we had this talk, are you let me slide? No. Oh. So
I learned my lesson. We good? We good?
So, no, yeah. So he didn't let me slide, but I learned. And then he, you know what he did? He said, he taught me math. And so I got a great grade in his class. He cared, and he was always on top of me. And when I found out that he was going to be my daughter's teacher, I was so happy because, again, all those years that he was teaching at Orange County Public Schools, he still had the same thing. Like, you know, he's not going to let you slide. He's going to be on you, and he's going to make sure that you learn math, period. You're not going to leave his classroom without learning. So, with everything, you know, there's going to be times that you're going to get into something, you're not going to know how to do it. And even being a judge, you know, being a judge is a lot about teaching yourself the subject. You know, I can change divisions like I did. I knew criminal law because when I became an attorney, I started out at the public defender's office. And then I taught myself family law. Not because I wanted to, trust me, I did not want family. My parents got divorced at one point, and I said I was never going to do family law. But I had a client who was accused of aggravated battery with a deadly weapon when he found out his wife was cheating on him with his friend because he destroyed the car that he bought her with the bat. And so then he wanted to do the divorce, and I said, oh, no, I don't do that kind of stuff. I just do criminal defense, that's it. I can help you with the criminal defense, that's not a problem, which we won the trial. But I can't do family law, I'm sorry. But I did. He forced me because he's like, I'm not hiring another attorney, you're doing this. And so I had to teach myself family law, but I was confident to do that because of Mr. Akins, because he was like, you know, he taught me how to break things down in steps and how to just teach yourself, just breathe, take it slowly, break it down, and teach yourself materials. And the reality is that we come across so many things in life, so many journeys, and sometimes we just have to teach ourselves. We don't read a book, you know, learn, explore, and like, and as a judge, you know, when I switch divisions, nobody's gonna sit me down and say, okay, Gisela, come here, this is how you do this. No, I have to learn it myself. And so, and I think I learned that from Mr. Akins. And then, I don't know, Jimmy, who you had for English, but for my senior year, I had Miss Healy. And Miss Healy, she was amazing. And, you know, a lot of people didn't like her because she was so strict. But I think it was because my dad was so strict that I kind of always loved the strict teacher. Yeah. And the reason why is because they don't let you slide, you know? And what does that do? That pushes you to be the best. You want somebody to give you the easy A? Well, then you're going to suck, you know? And, you know, you want to be that boss that everybody tells you, the brown noses you and say, you're the best, you're great. No, I don't want that. You know, I want somebody to keep it real with me. I want somebody who's going to push me. And Miss Healy was, you know, I would put all my work into a paper, and then she would tell me how horrible it was. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just did all this work, and now she's telling me it sucks. And I can't believe it. And some people would be like, she hates me. I even had a cousin of mine who's like, she hates me. I'm like, I would never say that, because I would say, you know what? I got to figure out what I'm doing wrong, and I'm going to learn from this, because I want to make sure that I learn. And so when I went to college and I had English in college, I was like, this is boring. This is easy, because I had already had Miss Healy. So when you have a teacher who pushes you, or when you are so hard on yourself that you push yourself, then when you get into a complicated situation, it's easy, because you've already been so hard on yourself, or you've already been pushed so hard. I'm telling you something, like if I ever had somebody try to push me, that's nothing compared to my dad. That's nothing. You know? If I ever had somebody try to be grumpy with me, like I said, I say, I don't have a problem with grumpy old men, because I had my dad. So, so I think, you know, but I had so many more teachers. But if I had to name the ones that always I think about all the time, and then I was like, you know, I want to make sure that they know where I'm at in my life, and I wanted them to know that I did it, because I might have given them so many headaches that they're like, what am I going to do with Gisela? I have a bottle of aspirin just for her. You know, these are the teachers that I think about.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. What I love, yeah, just kind of through all those examples that you talked about, not just what they instilled in you, but what you walked away from, is or walked away with is just kind of this theme of ownership. There's a theme of ownership across the board, right? Of owning, being responsible for your own learning journey, right? I really love the fact that you're saying, hey, one of the most valuable things I learned from him was the process of learning, because and how that continues to pay dividends for you even now. Like you said, changing divisions. Nobody's sitting you down and saying, hey, this is everything you need to know, right? You had to say, okay, where do I start? And then just really own your own learning journey, which I think is just really, really impressive. It's just awesome to hear, like, you were able to take that away at third grade. And here again, it's still paying off for you. And yeah, hopefully their teachers, some of the folks that you mentioned, and I know there's many, many others that have influenced you and left a favorable mark, but the ones that you mentioned specifically, hopefully they're listening and they're able to see again the role that they've been able to play and the community has been able to play in your success and your journey.
No, I agree with you, Devon. There was 2 points. You mentioned the ownership and the responsibility were a couple of things, as you were talking about I believe your middle school teacher, those lessons that you learned. And I also like the part about, put your name on it. If you're going to do some work, make sure that people understand that this is you. And also for you, recognize, okay, now that I'm going to put my name on it, like there has to be a certain level of excellence and knowing that I'm representing myself, I'm representing my family, my brand. That's just important for people to see things from that perspective. And, I always try to tell my kids and teach them, like, if you're going to do something, just do it to the best of your abilities. Not to be greater than anybody else, but for you, if you're going to do something, just make sure that you're doing it right. And those are, 2 to 3 things that I really took from that for me that really just stood out. Again, the responsibility, the ownership, and if you're going to put your name on it, do so and make sure you're doing it with excellence.
Yeah,
especially that ownership component too. Like, I love the fact that you see it even manifest itself as a 12th grader, and you're surviving Miss Healy's English class, right? And when everybody else is kind of saying, "Man, there's something about this teacher that they don't like me personally. This has nothing to do with my work product or a skill that I need to continue to develop. It's a personal vendetta." But you've had the kind of the wherewithal in the sense to say, well, no, I'm not going to say that. I know this is just a part of me learning. I got to take ownership of this, right? What can I do in order to close the gap here? And again, I think that's just a testament to the village of folks that have helped contribute to your, kind of raising you and your development and pouring into you. That I think is just, again, really, really insightful and, important points to pull away.
It's funny. I played a trick on Miss Healy when I was in school. Because she would give us homework every day, and I would be like, oh my goodness, like, why do we have to have homework every day? And she used to always say, oh, when pigs fly and hell freezes over. She'd say that all the time. And so back then in the Florida Mall, they had like this little kiosk, and you could have like newspapers made. And so I was like, first of all, I didn't mind doing the homework, but everybody was always complaining. So I was like, you just have to be creative. Like, if you want, she's always saying that she's not going to give us homework when pigs fly and hell freezes over. It's okay. So then let's make it happen. So at the time, my mom, I had my sister. She's good with art. We bought like the pink poster boards. I got about, I think, like 10 pink poster boards. And I know Jimmy will remember, like, our ceilings were like these little squares, but then it had like this little metal, it looked like checkerboards, but the little metal prongs. So I had my sister cut out these little pigs out of the pink poster board, and I put like wings on them, and I punched holes on them and put string on them, and I put paper clip on it, 2 paper clips on the string. So I went in there with 10 little pigs and hung them up in the room, and I got this newspaper made at the Florida Mall that said hell freezes over Miss Healy's class, and I put that all in her room. So when she came in, she had pigs flying, and the newspaper said that hell froze over. And I was like, what you gonna do? So, all that for one day of no homework. So it happened.
I respect it. That's awesome.
It's super creative, though, for sure.
Yeah, silly, but whatever. You're in high school and you do silly things.
Awesome. Again, back to the theme of ownership. You took ownership. I'm gonna be great. You want this to happen? I'm gonna make it happen. So I commend you. So we talked a lot about just kind of, again, the examples that your community has provided you, your family has provided you, and you've provided us a bunch of just really, really awesome nuggets. I would imagine kind of as you continue to grow in life, there's been plenty of situations that you've had to teach yourself about, right? You talked about learning, in the process of learning, teach yourself about to overcome adversity, right? Mm-hmm. Adverse situations. And so I'm curious if there's a specific situation that you can pull from or that comes to mind where you were called to lead through adversity, and what did you learn from that experience? And, how did you navigate it?
It's funny. That's the question I had the most, trouble thinking about. There's so many things that I've been through. I just couldn't think what was better than the other. I mean, so many things. I couldn't even, and then even in my own personal life, I don't know if many people know this, but I went to law school with 2 kids, 2 small children. People are like, how did you go to law school with 2 small kids? But it's so funny because in Spanish families, you have your kids young. And even, I went to high school, a lot of my best friends had their kids in high school. And so by the time I graduated from college, my mom just thought I was going to be an old maid and never have any kids. And I still had to go to law school. So I had my first 2 daughters and I went to law school with 2 kids. And that was so difficult. But I just knew that I had to finish my goal, that I wasn't going to let myself down or my family down or my father down. But I don't know. I just never thought that was a challenge. I just always felt to me, just like today, the day was crazy, but tomorrow's another day. You just keep going. So it was so hard to think of an answer for that question. Another thing that I thought about was I guess what I'm most proud of is in my family. We have a big family. There's always a lot of drama, and I think that they always call me to be the mediator for everything. Anything that happens. I'm always called to be the mediator. I guess this is the best source of adversity, whenever there's a problem. And whenever I get called in to be the mediator, even if the problem involved me, I think that they call me to be the mediator once because they know I'm going to get it solved, whatever problem it is, if it's including my dad, my sisters, my mom, my cousins, whatever it is, it's going to get resolved. But what I always do to lead the situation is, make sure that people understand that, one, it's so important to be the bigger person. I think pride is always a big problem whenever there's a situation. We all get wrapped up in pride. Anybody can. But even the best negotiator. This is my mom, when I graduated from law school, she gave me this little card. I think it's a 99-cent little card thing, and it was the negotiator, and it had all these traits of these negotiators. And one of the things that I always remember is that the best negotiator always makes the person think that it was their idea, which is the funny thing. So I think about that, and so whenever I'm talking to people who have a problem, and even if it's in my family, I always say, be the bigger person, and go up to the person and just see what they want, and try to figure out. It doesn't matter if you have to take a step back from what you believe in or what you want, and let the other person win for the day. In the big picture, does it really matter? We have such a long life to live, or a short life to live sometimes, and I think I'm most proud of that. Of all the challenges that I've had in my life, of all the things that I've been through, I think the fact that whenever we have problems with my family, that I can bring the family back together again, that to me feels the best.
So actually, there's a couple of things that you shared that even in explaining kind of your thought process and how you struggled a bit with finding an answer to that question, I still think that there's a valuable lesson in that, which is you don't look at those problems as adversity, right? Adversity sometimes can have the stigma I'm powerless against it. There's nothing I can do about it. This is a trying time, and I'm going to give up. I'm going to succumb to the situation. It's all about external. But I think part of the reason why you struggle maybe a little bit with identifying the answers, because for you, when you run into problems that are presented in life, because you have problems just like everybody else, right? When you're confronted with a problem, you go back to those lessons of ownership, of learning, of listening, of being a source for the community and facilitating a solution that don't make you feel like it's adverse, right? It's just another problem that I have to navigate. And at the end of the day, that mindset that you have of, and if I can't solve the problem today, there's always tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right? I'll just try again tomorrow. And so I think that there's still a lot of lessons in that, just from what you've shared. So I think because of that mindset, I can absolutely see why the family looks to you to help kind of facilitate or mediate, when they have those problems, is because you have a centeredness about you. Whenever you're dealing with those situations, that gives people a lot of confidence and helps them to kind of push out all the noise and the overwhelming emotions and just get to the root of what are we trying to do here? If we're trying to solve the problem, let's get pride out of it. Let's get your emotions out of it. Let's figure out what it is. And even if it means that you have to lose the battle or lose the day in order to win, win the lifetime, like we should do that. And so, yeah, man, I really appreciate just what you shared so far.
Well, thank you. You said it better than me.
It's the benefit of sitting on the sidelines and getting to learn. So.
Yeah, I just think it's important too. I mean, you mentioned, we have a lifetime to live, so you want those relationships to be as strong as possible, but also sometimes you don't have, as long as we may think, right? And again, just that point that it's sometimes things they're just not that crucial, to let's come to our resolution, and let's get past this and get to another point so that we can get back to being family and knowing just how that important that is for us and just within the community as well.
It's like sometimes I feel things for people I don't even know. Whenever I hear somebody say that they haven't spoken to their mom or their dad or their sibling, like, that hurts me. Like, I can't imagine not speaking to a parent or not speaking to a sibling or not speaking to somebody that you love or a relationship that gone south, and sometimes it just boils down to just being the bigger person or seeing what's going on, like what's behind the curtain. And so I would never want somebody that I love to be in that situation.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So when you think about, you as a leader and some of the adversity that you've mentioned and maybe other, situations that you were kind of thinking about as you were looking to kind of decide what you were going to share with us and with our listeners, what do you think that adversity has taught you about leadership in your life that you still carry with you to today?
Well, I was thinking that I was able to answer. Well, I thought about leadership and leaders that I admire and how they've made me feel or what did I take away from them, and leaders that I didn't like so much and how they made me feel and what I didn't like about them. And I think that, nobody likes a Napoleon leader, right? Nobody likes that. And people like leaders who let them play in the game too, right? Nobody wants to sit on the bench. And so people want to be a part of the movement. People want to be a part of the game. People want to have a leader that they can trust. And you can't trust somebody if you're dealing at arm's length. You have to be together. It has to be a team. And so I think that whenever people have trusted me and they put me in leadership positions and we've worked together, there's a sense of, I'm working with you, and my goal at the end of the day is to make us, there's no weak link, right? Because then you're gonna make me look bad. I'm gonna make you look bad. We have to all look good together. That's what makes a leader look good. And I always said that, even when I've been praying, when I pray to God, I say, God, like, help me make you look good. That's my goal, right? I want to make me strong so that people can say, like, oh, God is so good, like, look what he's done to Gisela. And so when I'm trying to be a leader, I want to work hard to make somebody look so good that they make me look good. Oh, look at that person with Gisela, they're doing everything right, so that makes me look good, right? So I think it's important for leaders to empower people. Like, you have to give them that confidence. You have to empower them. That's a good leader. You have to uplift them, constantly telling them, when they're doing something good, tell them. When they're doing something bad, tell them something good, and then tell them something bad. Hey, listen, you're doing this is really good, but also let's work on this situation. Like, your name's on this, right? Go back to the third grade teacher. Help them grow. Like, how? That's the thing. Like, tell them how. Like, you can't go up to somebody and tell them day after day, like, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong, because you're not helping them at all. You tell them how to do it right. Like, say, hey, listen, I noticed you do this. Have you tried this other way of doing it? Like, how are you doing this? Like, sit back and say, well, how are you doing it? Tell me. So then you can hear what they're doing, and maybe you can catch where the problem is and say, okay, wait, what are you doing right there? Because I've done that. I'm like, what? Did you ever think about what happens when you do that? Okay, let's go back. Because sometimes people do some crazy things, and they think that that's productive, and really it's not. And listen. That's the listening part. Like, that's So I've had people like waste so much time, and when you listen, like, okay, wait, go back and say that again. Now, did you hear yourself saying that? Because if you would have done X, Y, Z, you would have circumvented this whole part, and then you would have added this much time to your day, and you wouldn't know that if you would be like, why are you taking so long to do this? You're just attacking them instead of listening to what they're doing and seeing what the problem is. And then building people up, because if someone has a complex and they think they're horrible, they think they're sick, they think they're this, then they're gonna be that way. So you have to constantly build them up and make them think that they're the bomb, they're the best, And I remember Mr. Akins, my teacher, he was always telling me, like, you're amazing, you're great at math. I'm like, you're talking about me? I'm not great at math. I'm not great at math. He's like, yes, you are. And he would always tell me that I am, until I had to believe it myself, because he said, I don't know where he's getting this from, but he believes it, so I'm going to have to figure it out. And you have to learn. I mean, you're constantly learning people, you're constantly learning strategies. I mean, the smartest people are always reading. Like, their houses are full of books. Like, I'm not going to stop learning until the day that I die, So I'm constantly evolving. There's new ways, things are changing, and we can't help people if we stop learning. And so look at this now. I have girls in college, and I'm constantly joking around that sometimes when I talk to them, I have to Google. Like, I'm texting them and I'm Googling because I don't know what they're saying, and I'm learning. So yep. And so I think that to be a leader, you have to be able to, like, this new word, pivot, right? Were we saying this the other day? I wasn't saying this the other day. Now I am saying this now. So we have to be flexible. We have to learn. We have to build. We have to empower. And when you have those qualities, you are a leader. And then you're making the person that you're with a leader. And then they're building leaders. And then we're stronger as a race. We're stronger as a generation. We're stronger as a community. And I think that's when you start seeing people succeed, because if you're constantly like if you have a dog in your backyard, if you're constantly like covering a hole and the dog is making a hole and you're covering a hole, you're not getting anywhere. You're not going to have a nice backyard. You have to all be working together to make the backyard look nice.
No, I like that. Yeah, no, I like that. It resonates quite a bit. I just think when you talk about empowerment, like, you kept coming back to that, and everybody everybody being on the same page. And hey, the best way to make sure that you're looking good is that those that you're a steward of, those that are part of your team, are also performing at a high level and looking good. And that means having open and honest and transparent feedback, and not blowing smoke or giving people fluff. Encouraging them to stretch beyond themselves, for sure, but also caring enough about their development and their growth to give them the honest feedback. And like you said, say, hold on, did you just hear yourself? Let's go back. Right. And so I really appreciate that. It's actually super appropriate, because, for our listeners, the prior episode before this one, we actually break down the recipe to empowerment. All right. And we really kind of go through what steps are required in order to properly empower your team, and be able to delegate effectively and develop effectively through the empowerment process as a leader. And so to hear you share that's some of the things that you've learned through the adversity process and that you've carried with you, is a really awesome cosign, and super timely that we were able to kind of share that nugget.
Good. I'm happy to see it all works out.
Definitely. And you mentioned teamwork, you mentioned trust. and just, reminding all of us that you can only get to be, as successful by yourself to a certain level. But it's just so much more enriching. It's so much more fulfilling when you're helping others find their success, which leads to your success. And as a team, you guys are growing and learning, as you mentioned, and finding that success together. Teamwork is just so powerful. You could always do so much more, when you're working together with a group of individuals. Especially, for today, we just need to continue down that path. We need to continue to band together, to work together, and to listen to each other, see what we can do to solve problems within a community, and how can we all advance and continue to improve our lives, our families, and then that of others around us.
Well, I see you two together, and I hope you guys motivate each other. But I always say, I talk a lot to kids. I love talking to kids like the Girl Scouts and kids at Evans and any type of children youth projects. And I always said that it's important for you to start out with 5, a group of 5 friends, because you got to make sure that you always hold each other accountable. And of those 5 friends, always push each other and check on each other and make sure that you're just not getting lazy, and what are you doing next? How are you reaching your next goal? And I have that, I laugh because I have probably 3 sets of friends. I have my girlfriends from Evans. I have 2 sets of Latinas girlfriends, and I laugh because one's my older group that are my age, and then one's a younger group that I'm their mentor, and so there's a little bit of rivalry, but I have to have like my age group, but but we're always checking in on each other and saying, oh my goodness, congratulations, what's next? What's next for you? What are you doing next? Or, hey, remember you said you were going to do this, you haven't done it, and we've been doing this since, for my Evans group, since Evans, and for my age group, since we became lawyers, and the girls that I'm mentoring since probably now 10 years, and I think that we're constantly pushing each other to make sure that we don't get fat, get lazy. So we also work out together, so, but True. we want to make sure that we're taking it to the next level, and we self-check. Like if I get mad about something, I'd be like, even in our marriage, I was upset about this, am I wrong? And they'll say, yeah, you were wrong, or no, you're wrong. He's wrong. Okay, good. High five. Okay, good.
Good talk. I thought
but we keep it real, and we push each other, and we enjoy each other, and we make sure that we're growing because, we want that for each other. It's like a sisterhood. And you have to have that. You want to make sure that you're just not content and just sitting there coming home, watching TV and not doing anything with your life. You want to push yourself to the next level. And so it's really important to have a group of friends that are going to keep you accountable to that. Because you're going to be happy. You could give yourself. It's easy to pat yourself on the back and be happy with where you're at. And so
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And actually, I think it was something that you and I talked about years back, Jimmy, where we even said every leader needs counsel, right? So you always have to think about like who's a part of your round table, and it definitely sounds like you have a pretty robust round table of diverse perspectives, and everybody's just challenging one another, and you need that. You need that if you're going to not only continue to grow as a person, grow as a leader, grow in your personal life, professional life, spiritually, but also to make sure, like you said, that you don't just rest on your laurels and pat yourself on the back when there's more work to be done, because this process is not done, right?
Never.
Like we're still on this journey, and we're still building the legacy that we want to build for our family, and that our family has already built for us, and we're shepherding that, and so we have to see that good work all the way through. So.
Oh yes. And it's not only professionally, like you said, you can give back so many organizations. You have to pay forward with your blessings, and I love doing that. I serve on so many different boards, and I love to serve on there until I feel like I'm not doing anything different, and then I move on and see where I can serve somewhere else and make a difference. But I love youth groups, so I've been serving probably now. I'm in my 7th year now, serving on the Juvenile Justice Delinquency Prevention State Advisory Group. And we travel the state of Florida, making sure that we're working on prevention programs for juvenile delinquency, and I just now started serving on Project Opioid because there's a huge pandemic with opioid crisis. So that's a new project that I'm working on now, and I also serve on the board of the I'm trying to think of all the acronyms, but it's pretty much the community health centers of Central Florida. So that's pretty much, it's not the free clinic, but it's pretty much subsidized, and you pay what you can afford. And it's really important because as far as students who go to Evans, because they have a Pine Hill Center and they have normally in low-income areas, but if you can't see, you can't do well in school. If you have an ugly smile and people are bullying you, you're not going to do well in school. And so it's really important that people have health care provided for so they can do well in life and they can move forward in life and they're not having to worry about chronic pain. And so I always try to give back in ways that I feel that also are part of my brand, my mission. And I think I want people to have the pathways to success and education. And so making sure that they're free from addiction, making sure that if they do get into a problem that they can get out of it, prevention early, and making sure that people have healthcare taken care of so they don't have to worry about that so they can focus on school is important to me. And I think that we all should, figure out what else can we do to give back besides just being great citizens.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And a fair challenge, especially for our listeners. One of the things that, kind of continues to jump out to me, as we sit and we talk with you is your commitment to family, your commitment to community, and the example. It's really about being an example, being a beacon. The fact that, and I know you mentioned this when you were talking about like your daughters and taking them to the same middle school that you went to and the relationships there. But again, it's the example of still being rooted in the community that helped to aid in your growth and be able to pay it forward and to give back and to be that example. I think people can't overestimate the value in that, in those students at Evans knowing, hey, you walk these same halls and you went to these same classrooms and these same lockers and look where you've gotten in life. And so that's attainable for me. Because for some of those folks, for some of these kids and minority kids and kids from low income and just challenging backgrounds, the only tangible example sometimes of success and being able to overcome adversity that they'll see is somebody like yourself, somebody like Jimmie, somebody like myself, or our listeners going back to those communities and sharing with them their stories and their examples. So, again, just super, super compelling and a great challenge.
Yes.
No, so we definitely thank you. For our listeners. Again, there was a lot of nuggets, a lot of things to unpack. The servant leadership, again, the heart to want to serve your community and pay it forward. Those are just a few things I think are extremely powerful that I've been able to learn about you and just get, again, from the conversation. So we thank you for that. For the folks that are listening and following us, are there any spots, on social media that they can go to or on the internet to learn more about you and your career?
Well, yes. I mean, ultimately, I do have social media accounts for judges. At the handler, I guess that's what we call it, is at Judge Laurent. So I have Facebook at Judge Laurent and Instagram at Judge Laurent. And then we also have the courthouse, so the at 9th Circuit. So that's 9th is spelled out and Circuit is spelled out. And you could always see live. And they also have Twitter, Facebook, Instagram too. So you can always see things about me and the other judges as well, and what's going on at the courthouse.
Awesome. Yes, the Honorable Judge Laurent. That is so awesome to say.
Yeah, it is. It's a little flex. I like it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well earned too.
Well, thank you.
But again, this has been a great opportunity to learn some things that I didn't necessarily know before, and just learn more about your story and your leadership development and some of the adversity that you've gone through in your life, and how you kind of learned that, as I continue to do this and get more competent and sharpen my skills, it makes it easier to go through some of those challenging situations in life. So again, that's a lot of powerful messages that I think Devon and myself and our listeners would be able to take from this conversation. So thank you again for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed being part of your show.
Yeah, so again, we appreciate you guys listening and again, watching us on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe, hit the alert button so that you're always informed when we have new videos dropping. Make sure that you subscribe to, again, whatever podcast platform you're on. We're on Spotify, Apple, iTunes, so many others, Podbeam. Again, subscribe there, download the episodes. If you feel like it, we would certainly appreciate it if you leave us a review as well. That way we can get some feedback from you. And again, we want to keep these conversations as interactive as possible. So that's one way that you can do that and show us some love, is leaving some reviews for us as well. And just let us know what you think about the episodes, about the guests that we have on. And again, some nuggets that you've taken away that maybe we didn't discuss, but just something that was really powerful for you. We'd love to hear about that. So leave us some reviews, leave us some comments. We would always appreciate that as well. So again, I think this was just another, powerful mentored by adversity session.
Absolutely.
Again, yeah, blessed, to have you on here. And it's important, I said a prayer before we started that, the Lord would just be elevated through our conversation. And that was something that you mentioned earlier that really stuck out to me, that, it's about myself and my mission and the purpose that I'm living, but knowing that there's a higher purpose. And I want to do as good as I can, for the Lord and be an example for others. So
How that make you
again,
look good.
yeah, exactly. So thank you for sharing that with us as well. So until next time, again, continue to, if you haven't listened to all the episodes, go back. We are on a run. This is episode number 8, and we're going to keep it coming. So continue to listen, continue to download, like us and follow us on Facebook as well at the Legacy and Leadership Podcast. You could also check us out on Instagram if you haven't done so already at Legacy Leadership, Twitter. So we're all over the place, even everywhere. on LinkedIn as well. So wherever you're at, that's where we're trying to be. We want to make sure that you continue to get the goodness, which is the Legacy and Leadership Podcast. So again, Judge, thank you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Devon, as always, my friend, for spending this time, investing this time with me. I appreciate your accountability in my life as well, and the counsel that you provide as my boy and as my friend, and my brother. So I appreciate that. So again, thank you to all of our listeners, and you guys, God bless and stay encouraged.
All right, bye everybody. Take care.
Rage on that beat, going crazy.
You have just listened to the Legacy and Leadership Podcast, hosted by Jimmy Gonzalez and Devon Watts. Thank you, and we hope that you live, lead, and leave a legacy worth remembering. Until next time.